Hey everyone, welcome to another 90 Day Fiance recap chat here on CBiz Media. This is Irene, where we talk faith, love, and trends. And you guys know, especially you 90 Day fans, 90 Day Fiance is a reality show that follows couples. One's from the US, the other person's from another country. So we get to see all the craziness that ensues from that dynamic, from cultural barriers, language boundaries, everyday relationship ups and downs, plus the fact that there's a deadline to marry, and marriage is the goal, but all the couples don't always get there, and sometimes when they get there, it can be a bit messy. And even before they get there, maybe that's why we watch 90 Day Fiance. This spinoff is before the 90 days. Now we're gonna start with Trisha and Rick. Now, Rick wants to make things right when it comes to the situation where he just revealed he cheated with his ex while they had that little 5-day situation where they weren't speaking. He took that time to go meet his ex, even though she started to talk to him again within nearing the end of that 5 days. He had booked a trip out of the country with his ex and basically went and hooked up with his ex. She feels like he's ruined everything. He says he doesn't intend on cheating any further. He wanted to come clean with her. He comforts her and he apologizes over and over. And, she's really reluctant, but she says she's going to try to stay because she loves him, but she's not sure if she can trust him. You gotta have both, honey. You can't just, I've heard the saying when people say love is not always enough. And it sounds like, but it should be, but it's not always. Especially when you're young, you're like, love is everything. She's young, he's not young. So he may be kind of playing off of that as well. Probably her desire to find a good relationship. As a woman, it's a little different for us. So now they're kind of made up. She's still kind of mopey, not showing him love, has some trust issues with him, but they're still out and about in this special getaway within the trip, a trip within the trip. And they're watching this hand-to-hand boxing match, which is called Merengue. He says Trisha's pretty cold, but he's trying to heat her up and rekindle things and tell jokes and kind of just get on her good side during this boxing match. So they make a bet. If her guy wins, then wait a minute. Okay, if his guy wins, then they spend the night together. If her guy wins, then they spend the night together. She kind of made a joke saying, either way, we're not going to spend the night together. And I think she meant it because at the end of the day, his guy won, but he's like, well, I'm just happy she's contemplating still sleeping with me. But she says, no, I'm not really gonna do that because she's still not feeling this situation. But like I said, he said that he's glad that she's even considering making a bet like that. She basically doesn't want him to touch her, and I totally get it. The question is asked, do you still want me to meet your dad? And she says, well, you're here, so I'm not going to go back on my word. She lets him know dad is protective. He's nervous and he doesn't meet the family qualifications. Plus, on top of this, she finds out that he cheated in the middle of their relationship. Even though you haven't met the person yet, I still feel like if you've made a commitment to each other, that it's kind of cheating. Because you're supposed to be emotionally in something with this person deeply, and then that person breaks the bond and goes somewhere else with someone and just sleeps with them. So to me, I feel like this cheating is valid. Just because they did not meet yet doesn't mean his cheating is not valid, but some people will think that way. But he's nervous to meet the dad. He also's been through divorce and doesn't want any more kids, which is some things that in a way is a deal breaker for her family and probably a deal breaker for her because I'm pretty sure she wants her own kids. So we'll see how this meeting with the parents ensues. Now let's get into Elise and Joshua. She packs and preps for her trip. She lets us know she's 6 months a virgin. She's weirded out about the fact that Joshua does have a roommate. And she calls her girlfriend, and they kind of talked about the scenario, separately, because she had a girls' night out and she didn't want to tell them all that. But she talked to one of her friends that was there, and she told her what was going on. Her and her girlfriend are helping. She's helping her get her luggage out. She has tons of luggage. And she tells her friend, the issue with Joshua. He crashed a boat. He has his final warning at work. Then she puts on top of that, he said he lives with his parents. He needs roommates. So she's like, there's a lot of things that aren't lining up very well. It sounds like his life is falling apart right now. And I'm coming there in the midst of this. Is this the best time? It may not be. But this is a time of proving. If you're with someone and it's like they're struggling and you don't want to really be around during their struggle, it kind of says a lot about you as far as, are you going to be around when they're struggling, when you guys are really in the relationship? But you got to be careful with first meetings and new people, and especially across the world, because it could be scammy, it could be a setup, it could be messy. So, and she knows a bit about that due to the fact that she was scammed in a previous relationship. So she has her doubts and her issues, and she has good reason for that. So she definitely needs to be cautious. But she says she needs a chance to meet this guy, and she really wants to take this trip. So once she gets to the airport, she says her goodbyes to her friend. Her documents are denied multiple times. She's in panic mode, 8 times denial. And then it finally works. I'm like, what is even going on? What do you have in your past, at least, where your documents are denied 8 times? But we find out that she miswrote her name. She wrote her name backwards. Last name first, first name last, or whatever. She didn't do it right on the document. So they couldn't find her at first. The guy that actually finally helps her get through, she kind of flirts with him a bit, but she says, you know what? I'm meeting the love of my life. I would give you my phone number, but I'm meeting the man of my dreams or something like that. So 28 hours later from this moment, we go to Sydney, Australia. We see Joshua with his friend Chris. They're in the rental and they're prepping for her to arrive. He has a few groceries there. And Chris has a surprise for Joshua, saying, takes him to the bedroom. It's not that kind of surprise, guys, but it's a picture of him over their bed. So that's what they're going to be seeing if they get in the bed together. They're going to be seeing Chris. Isn't that nice? He says he's excited. They've been talking for since 6 months. She could be the one. She's a great listener. And he hopes that she likes him as much as he likes her. There's some type of special horse race celebration the day of her arrival. So they're planning on dragging her along. Then on their way to pick her up, of course, they have to get dressed up and all of this. They talk about this other woman. I'm like, who is this other woman? And they talk about American girls possibly being jealous. Is that a thing? Because they're from Australia. But there's someone named Nat, who's a female friend he's been living with for the last 3 months. She thinks he's living with his parents. Now, maybe he did live with his parents in the past, but in the recent past, or the recent history, or let's just say even right now, he's living with this young lady named Nat. So maybe that's another reason he's trying to rent another space. Because, if he was living with his parents, it is a lot to bring someone to meet your parents the first. In the beginning, you don't even know that person well, so then you're going to bring them their parents. So I think that's a lot of pressure. But yet and still, getting this place, that sounds like another reason if you're living with another woman. And honestly, she has a reason to be jealous. Unless this is something that you should have told her early on in the beginning, within the last 3 months of this situation. You should have told her you're moving in with a female friend. He says he's serious, but he's embarrassed by his situation, his lack of stability right now, but he really wants to settle down. I guess he's trying to let us know this other woman means nothing to him, and he really wants to be with Elise. Some guy flirts with Elise as she's going through the airport. I think she's here in Australia now. She says, thanks for the compliment, but I'm about to meet my husband for the first time. Not your husband yet, but could be. She's screaming in the bathroom, going crazy. Her nerves are all over the place. So the two men go into the airport, and as they're going in, I think the guy grabs his hand, and they kind of hold hands for a split second, then they break hands. And I'm like, okay, these guys are a bit touchy-feely to me. I just feel like they have some different type of bond that I can't fully explain yet. I don't know. Is there something that we need to know about Chris? I don't know. This is in the back of my head. I don't have proof of any of this at all, right? So another issue, she's like, okay, he's bringing his friend to the airport. They're all dressed up according to their social media. What's happening here? She has tons of luggage as she's rolling. I don't even know how anyone can roll all that luggage. And how many days is she even staying? I don't know. She looks like she has a full walk-in closet worth of stuff. And, for me, I see Joshua watching her from across the way as she rolls herself. I'm like, dude, you should be rushing over there to help her. But he does. When she gets close enough, he gets over there and helps a bit. But I'm like, dude, you really took your time to go help. I didn't like that. They share a nice long hug. She tells him he's sexy. Then they share a kiss. And the kiss isn't like a super passionate kiss, but it's a kiss nonetheless. It's not like some of the other past 90-day airport meetings that I've seen where people are nearly making out. That's not always a good look. It definitely was not like Lisa and Daniel, where he was licking the inside of her face. So I respect that I didn't see all that, and I hadn't have to see all that. But she's saying, I just got off the plane. He looks good. I look a mess. He seems super calm. And she says, once they hugged, she was really comfortable. She didn't think she would be that comfortable with him that quickly. Like they'd known each other forever. He's like, well, it's no time to shower. We have this event that we're going to. It's a special day here in our country. And she's like, I can't shower. I can't clean myself up. He's like, I know you've been jet lagged, but you come on to this event with us. And to me, my first thought is men, they just don't get it. They're just like, hey, just do this, do that. Maybe I'm not the spontaneous type, but a lady needs to have a little self-care, especially after a long trip like that. He's just jumping right into this event. So she's like, well, you guys are dressed up. I'm not. Why don't we go through my luggage and find something great? So they pull out some outfits. She said, no, I want to go a bit sluttier than this. And he's like, fine, wear whatever you want. I don't know what the guys thought about that comment. But she was a bit reluctant, but she was into it. And she said, let's do it. Let's go to this thing. And so as she's getting changed and cleaned up in the airport bathroom, the guy say, Chris says, what do you think? He's like, well, she's a firecracker. Yes, she is. She makes a comment about the fact that, hey, I don't need any underwear for this outfit. And she keeps talking about how she's not wearing underwear. She says it more than once, even in front of his friend. I think it's a bit inappropriate, honestly. I think if you say it, you probably should just say it to him. Why are you saying it in front of his friend as well? To me, it gives a vibe that she is a little bit too much and a little bit too open. Now, Chris does give her a hug as well. She gives him a nice hug, nothing inappropriate, but he gets a good hug. I don't know if Chris thinks he can get in on the action as well. Sometimes guys think this. Sometimes, strangely enough, guys share women. I don't think that Josh was that type of guy, but, they both seem like a little bit of a swaggy party guys. On a little bit on the older side, they may do some different things. I don't know. We'll see as this story unfolds. Now let's go to Aunt Sprig, Aviva, and Stig, along with Corinth. So it's the next day after the information starts to come out about Stig with this other girl. Of course, he denies everything. So she needs to see all the receipts. So she meets up with Aunt Spring and her niece, Corinth. And Stig kind of whines about it and says, you're supposed to be meeting my dad later, so don't forget about that. So when they meet up, she's like, let's have some strong drinks. So she just wants to forget about the fact that she's in this situation, I guess. So he says that, they ask her, so what did he say? He says, that she's just a fan. Corinth shows the picture and reveals that they've had some off and on hookups. And she said, well, maybe we need to hear it from the horse's mouth. So they call the girl directly. She's like, because she has more questions. She's like, well, why don't we just call this girl and hear straight from her? So the girl reveals they won't let us hear her voices. Maybe she did not sign the proper paperwork. Maybe she doesn't want to be heard. Maybe she is fake. I don't know. But she said they slept together last month. And they still talk. He says he's single. He's never mentioned Aviva. Like, tons of red flags here. Then she said, then the young lady texts her again and says, text her friend after they talk and says they have an upcoming trip at the end of the month to meet up. So she's like, I don't know about the situation. Do I even know Stig? So to me, it sounds like they have a hookup scenario where they meet up once a month. This is what the young lady is kind of presenting out there. And that they may have a situationship, a friends with benefits type thing. I don't know what they're doing, but this is what she's presenting. So after hearing all this information, Stig meets up with her, with his dad, and he hasn't seen her all day. She's been kind of quiet, not answering his texts. So he says the vibe doesn't feel right. His dad is pretty handsome. He looks like a stable type of guy. I don't know where Stig gets his womanizing ways, but men can get them from anywhere. Especially since he's in the music industry, that probably makes him even more desirable to some of these women. So when they get to the, I guess it's a bar or a restaurant where they meet up, they're standing by the bar. Aunt Sprig wants to order the panty ripper drink right away. Sounds crazy, but the two ladies get this drink. And I don't know if what this is supposed to mean, Aunt Spring. Are you trying to hook up with Stig's dad? What's happening? Anyway, she explains that they talked to the girl and about the hookup they had and planning another hookup. And, the dad's asking, is this true? And he says no. He swears that this isn't the situation. And he says that he knows his son is full of drama. He always sees him with a bunch of girls. He's never seen him settle down. So when he says something like this, he's not really sure if he's really serious about settling down. So as they continue to talk, he's like, well, are there any texts between them that you've seen? He's like, well, it's just that one text with the picture attached. So Dad's saying it's not enough proof. And I kind of felt that way too previously. And Stig continues to says he's not lying. Even though this is a serious situation, they're talking about this right in front of Dad. They're not even getting to know Aviva at this moment. She's not even getting to know Dad. It's just straight to this scenario. It's kind of embarrassing, but, Aunt Spring said it has to be done. But Stig says, this is serious to me. You're meeting my dad. I'm really taking this thing seriously. And Aviva wonders, if this young lady's just trying to cause drama. So at this time, she is taking his word for it. Dad kind of convinces it. Dad kind of works it where he makes it sound like there's not enough proof. And I kind of understand that too, but I can see that, especially if the word is going around where, hey, he's going to be on this show. And, he's already a big name artist, and a woman wants to feel seen and noticed, so she might attach herself to this whole situation so that she can get seen and she can get some credibility or whatever she's looking for. So, there's a possibility there, but I'm not gonna so easily lean into trusting Stig. And at the time, I might be cool because his dad's there and we're talking and stuff, but I'm still gonna have these things in the back of my mind, and I'm not gonna just be like, hey Stig, let's go back to the room and try to make a baby for the millionth time on this trip. I wouldn't do it. Um, Auntie says, I gave her all the information she needs. It's on her. If whatever she does, it's her choice. And Aviva says, she does put a disclaimer in there saying if this is true, and I find out later this is true, I will end things. But Stig's like, okay, now he thinks he's on a clean slate and he has a new fresh start. He does reveal that he was unsure about Aviva before actually meeting her. So a few months in, they were kind of supposed to be more exclusive, but he was still kind of messing with girls and talking with girls. He said he didn't sleep with them. I'm not sure if that's really true, but he says he was kind of messing with girls a bit, talking or whatnot. I'm sure he may have been fooling around in other ways, but he just said he was talking. No sleeping together. Yeah, maybe you might have came close, and you might have. We'll see. But anyway, he says he hopes she doesn't find out about that scenario. So even though he may be innocent of this, he still has some secrets he's holding on to. And this is an issue with all the couples on 90 Days. Seems like everybody has some type of a hidden secret. So now, Sheena and Forrest, we got to see this great time they had together, this connection they're building, growing strong, having this great date night that ended up in an engagement. And now he has to break it to his mom, who's skeptical of Sheena because of her previous lies about how her family has been mistreating her and taking her money. So when he breaks the news again, they broke the news to Molly. She said, well, she was supposed to prove herself before you got engaged. Forrest, he defends the fact that, okay, she was traumatized. There's different things she went through, and that's why she did what she did. And Molly's like, so stress equals lies. We all have stress in our lives, so that means you're supposed to lie. So the trust issues and all of that, is that not going to be something that you deal with? And he's saying, you kind of just have to get over this, Mom. I think that the three of them were together and the producers were talking to them about trust issues, and Sheena says she has trust issues, and Molly was like making sarcastic comments all the way through, say, trust issues, you have trust issues, what do you think we have with you? Makes sense. And then she says, well, I'm just trying to get over this whole thing. She said, get over, I'm sure you are trying to get over on us. So Molly was dragging her, and she dragged her through this scenario. This is supposed to be one of the happiest days of her life, as well as her son's life, but it's like she's really dragging mostly Sheena, but even her own son. Mom's not momming. She's not showing love in this scenario. He said he's going to take the leap. It's his choice, and she has to accept them or else. So basically, he's like, you're not going to be in our lives if you don't accept this. So that makes her even more upset. He's like, we don't want to cause you any more stress, Mom. He tries to turn it another way. He's like, okay, if we're the source of your stress, we don't want to cause you any more stress. So, we're kind of going to separate ourselves in a way. And she says, oh, you're a big man now. He's like, yes, thank you, I am. And I'm going to make my own choices. So he kind of turns it back around on Mom. In a way, he still maintains a level of respect for his mom, but he still shows that he's upset about her reactions and how she's responding. So now she says she feels like she lost her son, and he's going to do whatever he wants. And it becomes not even about the two of them anymore, but all about her and everything she sacrificed. To me, they're giving me Family Feud. Dad really probably doesn't like Forrest because he wants that money for himself. He wants to continue to get that money, which is traditionally what the family helps and supports each other. And of course, Molly doesn't like Sheena because she thinks she's a liar, but she also doesn't like the fact that Dad seems like he's all into her money business. So the family has more issues than they have with each other. I think they may need assistance in the future. Like, again, she mentions her son has autism, but there's a way that you have to possibly step back. I mean, this is what he wants. This is what he dreamed for his life. If you're the mom, you're supposed to try to facilitate that, even though I totally understand where Molly's coming from with the lies. It's been a 7-year journey. Obviously, looks like he's not going to let go of this woman. So how do you handle it from here where all parties can figure this thing out? And it's not like they're married today. They're engaged. They can have a longer engagement, but if they're trying to do the 90-day visa process, there is a deadline. So they have to figure all of that scenario out. At the end of the day, mom may have to be cut out of the picture. And that's kind of the final thoughts of Forrest and Sheena as they walk away from this scenario and say goodnight. So something disgusting happened with Lisa and Daniel. And I'm not talking about the way he licked her whole head and face when they kiss. Which is, I don't know if that's just the way he kisses, but whatever. But Lisa dropped a bomb in the bed. She got sick in the bed. And something came out of the other end. I was going to say POO, but I don't think I'm going to say it. So they faked us out with some major drama, like, oh, something major happened, but it was kind of major because if somebody does that in the bed, it's definitely a mess and a turnoff. And she said it was a big mess. Honestly, he told her don't be embarrassed, but some of it got on Daniel, and she said it was everywhere. This is disgusting, but up next, we're still going to go to this cooking class. And she's saying maybe the love that Daniel has, he even loves her even after this scenario, that will cover all of her wrongs, cover all of her issues. She just wants to be with Daniel. And this scenario, I guess, showed that he really loves her because he's not backing away, even though what happened. So they're going to a cooking class. She's going to make oha soup. It's an Igbo meal. She's like all the raw meats and things that are going to be in this dish are making her queasy. There's a young lady that's the cook and she's showing her how to do this. And basically she says she must know how to cook. And he says she must know how to cook. And I'm like, what about him? Why can't he do this class with her? But it looks like it's all about teaching her how to cook for him. Lisa's thankful for him and all the things he's been doing, solidifying their relationship, getting all of the blessings from the uncle to the king. And, now he's taking her to learn how to cook. But she feels guilty at the end of the day because there's still something she hasn't told him. So as they eat the food, she's like, honey, is the food good? He acts like the food is so good that he gives her, plants a kiss on her. So now they're going to talk. He's going to try to get her to eat the food. She's like, no, my stomach is still weird. Please don't make me try to eat this. I still have bubble guts. So, but I have to talk to you. So she reveals her 5 marriages. And she says, so you would be my 6th husband. But not really, because these other last 2 people you married weren't men. So they can't be a husband, can they? Honestly, I think he really would be the 4th husband. The other 2 people you were married to were women. And he's like, well, why haven't you ever mentioned this? Of course, he doesn't know the women part. He knows about the 5 marriages now. And he says, you can't just sleep with 100 men. The 5th, she talks about the 5th, what happened with the 5th relationship. And I think the word man was used, which it shouldn't have been used because it's not a man. That the person basically ran off. The marriage was short-lived and the divorce isn't final, but she started the divorce. She's still married. And he's like, oh, no, I've been sleeping with another man's wife. Well, that's why you shouldn't have even slept with her in the first place. You're supposed to be a Christian anyway. Especially the first day you guys come in. Now, she kind of pushed it on the first night. He did it on the next day. But yet and still, just because you were engaged and you're supposed to have such a strong religious Christian background, you kind of set yourself up. You don't even fully know this person and you slept with them nearly on the first day you met them. So she again says her divorce isn't final. They've been separated for the last 9 years. He said, but no, this is a sin because you're still some other man's wife. 9 years is a long separation. I did not know that information, that they had not been with each other for the last 9 years. And it sounds like she couldn't find her or something like that, and that's why it took her so long to get to the divorce. But as she started talking to Daniel, she really should have tried to speed up that divorce process, or even told Daniel that that's what she was going through, because that would have made a lot more sense. Maybe it would have slowed down their courtship. Even if she didn't tell him about 5 people, she could at least told him that she was trying to come out of this relationship. And maybe he would be more understanding. And when they met, at least that part would be out of the way. So he's more upset too that she never told him. She says she's sorry. He says this is unbelievable. She said, fine, I'll give you your ring back. And she drops it on the table. She's a mess, crying it up. He says he feels like dying. He feels poison. And now she says she should have never told him. He says he could be banished from his country. He says, how can I talk? I need to talk to God and the ancestors. How can I even talk to them at this point? So she goes back over to him. She's on her knees begging. And he said, you called me a liar and a scammer, but she's the real scammer. He said he thought white people were truthful. And I thought that was a very funny and strange thing to say. But he said it. She's drowning her tears in booze. And Daniel does not yet know that he's a she that she's been married to. That part he still doesn't know, but he's devastated from the new information that he now knows. So he says, I just want to go home, please. So they go back to the hotel and they have to sit in the same car together. It looks like they're in a bigger car, like almost a bus. So they're like a couple of seats back from each other. So they don't have to sit right next to each other. But they're still in the same car together because, 90 Day is paying for their ride home, I'm sure, right? So they have to use the same car. Anyway, she has to get a separate room once they get back to the hotel. And she's like, calls her daughter FaceTime and tells her that, I told Daniel. She's in tears. I told him about the 5 marriages. Well, did you tell him about the women? She's like, no, I didn't tell him that yet. She said, well, he's going to be devastated when he finds out that these are not men, but women that you're talking about, at least in your last couple of marriages. Or was it the last 3? I can't keep track. So she doesn't want to tell him. She's like, I told him this and he doesn't want anything else to do with me. How can I tell him that? I don't want this relationship to end. I need him. I want him and all of that. And it's crazy. Her daughter basically says, you're going to have to tell. I know you want this relationship, but you're going to have to be honest because it's going to come out anyhow. You just need to really tell him. And of course, you shouldn't build a marriage on lies. That's also another reason you should tell him as well. But all of this sounds like they could be broken up now, much less if she adds the other part. I think she needs to see what he says on this part. If he even has some type of redemption for her, I would be shocked. But, if he does show some redemptive qualities, like he can forgive her, like they might move forward, then yeah, I would tell him. But if he ends things at this point, do you really have any obligation to tell him anything else? Maybe not. But just to clear your own mind and maybe even make him more devastated, just to break his heart a bit more, I tell him. I tell him the other part though. I mean, just if she feels that way, it's like, but it's really on her. It's her issue. She's the one that put herself and put them in the scenario. So she really takes all the fault and the blame in this. But if you want to go out with a bang, why not add that extra information on top? Why not? Otherwise, break it to him gently after he may forgive you. Because if you keep holding secrets, you're just going to keep having issue after issue, and you're going to build your marriage on a lie, and it's not worth all of that at the end of the day. So the thing that really got me is like he thought white people were truthful. But wait a minute, what about that young lady that said that he was scamming her and he was talking to all these other white women? That young lady wasn't truthful. Wasn't she white? Obviously, his experience in Africa is much different than our experiences here in America as African Americans. Maybe where he lives, there's not a lot of Caucasian people there. I don't know. He seems like she's some type of special unicorn to him, that, you know, he has preconceived notions about what white people are. But people are people. You know, we have our different traits because we come from different places. We're raised in different ways. Some of the stereotypes do have truth to them. Some of them don't. People are people at the end of the day. And you can't just rest a whole person's who they are on a stereotype. So guys, that was crazy. What did you think of this episode of 90 Day Fiance? Before the 90 days, thoughts, comments, questions, I'd love to hear from you. And if you would like to connect, email me at cbiztv@yahoo.com. Check us out on our other platforms at cbiztvmedia.com. And we will talk again, guys. All the best, and God bless.